news from the real world for the week of April 6th. My name is Katie Pine, and I'm a design and production major interested in stage management.
Hi, my name is Sam Andrews. I am a freshman design and production major interested in lighting design.
Hi, my name is Olivia Laverty. I am a freshman design and production major interested in lighting design.
And I'm Trent Taylor. I'm a freshman design production major who's interested in scenic design and technical direction.
Okay, so the first article that we're going to start off with today is titled A Community Art Project Made from 6,000 CDs. To give a little bit of background, this art installation went on in Europe and was used 6,000 CDs that people donated, so from all across all areas, and they created this kind of netting-like structure between two buildings.
I think I'm going to start off the discussion on this article and talk about how I find this really interesting as a lighting designer because the nature of the exhibit is they're relying on the reflective quality of the material they're using to create different designs based on the natural light that's created, whether that be the daylight or the street lights at night. And I think this is a really interesting way to go about coming up with a new materialistic lighting design in a sense. So,
I thought that the lighting was really interesting, like Sam said, but as someone who really likes like 3D space, I thought the form was rather boring for it. I thought you could do a very similar type idea with the CDs and the artwork and have it reflect light in a similar way, but if you were to create it into more of a three-dimensional form, I think it would be more interesting.
I think it's cool how at night they projected images onto the CDs. In the picture, which we don't have right now, they have like this rainbow pattern on there, and it's illuminated between two pillars, and it creates this really like wonderful concept. And I think that this could be a way that you could include CDs into like scenic design in the future, like taking old things and making it.
yeah, you could definitely incorporate CDs as like a projection material and map content tone, which would be a really interesting avenue to explore.
Yeah, or even just have light coming from different directions, and the reflective quality would make it look like different colors. That could be
Yeah, that would definitely be cool.
Patented here at Carnegie Mellon. You heard it first.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so the next article was about concept designers at LEGO, and they have this really interesting process in which they hire their company members and how they treat their company members and what they're looking for in new employees. So you want to comment on that?
I guess I'll start off. More than specifically about this article, I read some of the comments in this also. What interested me about this is how, not the way they were looking for the job, but the job they were looking for. They were looking for someone to design toys for girls specifically.
Yeah.
And I agree with some of the comments in the blog saying that I think in the modern world, the toys for girls and stuff like that is losing its like power. I think the pigeonholing of what type of toys girls should be playing with and boys should be playing with is losing credibility.
Yeah, I feel like that kids, and definitely like me as someone who's going to like I buy toys for my younger cousins, like I feel like having girl toys and boy toys is kind of this outdated concept.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
I found like when I would go shopping for my like younger cousins and younger siblings, like they would just want like state of the art like unisex toys. They wouldn't want like Matchbox like cars or like pretty princess stuff. They're more focused towards like building blocks, and like that's exactly what Lego is.
Yeah, they're not. It doesn't have to be like pink and beautiful for a girl to want to play with it. They can play with it regardless of what color it is and what it is.
Yeah, like I remember when I was like 9, all I wanted was a chop saw, and so maybe Lego should introduce like a construction line of products that girls and boys can enjoy together.
Yeah.
Maybe not chop saws for 5-year-olds.
There was that video on the blog a while back. I know it was probably like earlier for the podcast sake, but it was that video of like the 3 young girls who built that Rube Goldberg machine.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
So I think that that's also really like that ties into this article too, because you're giving girls like the building blocks and like this concept that they can play with. Like they don't need to have like princess dolls.
So I think one of the greatest things about that video was that they were using their Barbies and their tea sets, and they were like using their girl toys to make like something you wouldn't normally find them playing with their girl toys. Like they weren't playing house with their Barbies; they were making like a little science thing with their Barbies, which is kind of cool.
I just find it really interesting that in in today's society, we're still trying to cater toys to a particular sex. Like Trent said earlier, it just seems a little bit odd in modern times. Like, I don't see why they can't just design a Lego toy that, you know, is perfect for both sexes.
Yeah, I remember when I was little, I loved playing with Star Wars Legos. Star Wars isn't catered to one gender. I mean, it's Star Wars. I was like, oh, give me the Millennium Falcon set. And then like I also had like the girl Lego set, but like that was lame. And I don't want to play with that.
I mean, one of my favorite things that LEGO's been doing more recently is they have been enabling kids with like their rollout of retail stores and stuff to come up with an idea and create it in their mind, regardless of what it was, as opposed to the predetermined sets, and then go and order the pieces online, go up and pick up their own personalized set in the store. And so it really sponsors creativity in children. And I think that leg of Lego's kind of new millennium mission is much more interesting and more important than like the girl toys that they're still trying to do for whatever reason.
Yeah, Lego's doing some really good stuff. A plus for Lego. Okay, so our next article talked about how Jim Henson's estate is creating this creature shop, which is combining animatronics and costumes to be used in TV and movies. These aren't like Jim Henson was the creator of the Muppets, but the stuff that his estate and his company is creating now are these huge monsters, and they're absolutely beautiful. They're
really interesting. There's the one article talks about the show that they have on Sci-Fi
yeah.
that is like people like working in the creative shop to make these things and like broaden the horizons of what they could be.
I think this is really cool because here at CMU we have such a diverse range of schools. You know, everything from the School of Drama to the School of Computer Science with the robotics program to engineering. And I think this is a great example of where you can get some cross-disciplinary fields and get somebody who's really good with robotics working with possibly a costume designer. And I think this is interesting to see where this could be used in the theatrical industry as we keep moving forward with technology.
I could be mistaken, but I think Sam French is putting on a show
Yeah.
this week that is like a robot doing all the timing, like 50-minute sketch
Oh, that's
with
really
an actor,
cool.
which is kind of along the lines of what you were saying. And I think he was working with people from like robotics and engineering to make that happen.
Yeah.
I think
So like, we're already doing things like that, which is really impressive for us.
I think that's what makes CMU so different than a lot of other drama schools. Like, we have this scientific component that's literally right next door.
Yeah.
And we're able to combine that within what we do as artists to create this whole new line of art and science that's this weird combination of materials and just like objects. And to have something like Jim Henson's company have these huge animatronic figures with like complex looking parts inside, but on the outside there are these beautiful sculptures and beautiful, I don't know, creatures. I think that's really cool.
Definitely. It's certainly a cool thing to explore. I wish I knew more about it, but I can't wait to see it come about more and more in the world.
Okay, so the next article was titled "Where Films Shoot, Tourist Dollars Follow," and I agree with this article wholeheartedly. I definitely want to see sets of movies. I think it's so cool to stand where like famous people once stood. Not as like, oh, like this is a person's house, but this is where one of my favorite movies took place. If Hogwarts was a real place, I'd probably go.
So that you can tour the Harry Potter studios in London.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
really want to do that.
So that's on my bucket list of things to do.
Yeah, the New Zealand Hobbit holes are also on my bucket list because those are really, really cool. Have you seen those? I want to live there.
I think coming from this from kind of a theme park perspective, this supports why heavily themed environments are so successful, because people see these things in movies and on TV and stuff, and then one of the things that people want to do is that you want to be there, you want to experience it firsthand, not just on the screen, and so I think that the same concepts that are driving why these film sets are becoming so successful now in like the after shooting tours and stuff is the same reasons why theme parks have been successful. Like Disney's been successful for so many years. You can go see Cinderella's castle the same way you can go see the Hobbits, whatever the Hobbit hole. I don't know.
I think that's why the Wizarding World of Harry Potter in Florida is so successful because you can experience it for yourself. Like, I know that Olivia has personal experiences with that park, but I know that you are literally transported into the world of Harry Potter and the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, excuse me. And like, that's great for some people. Like, you get the experience without, I mean, obviously you can't have the real experience because magic doesn't exist except in this house.
Excuse me. The magic of Disney exists though. Too bad it's in Universal.
See, I would like to wonder if, like, you know, this whole idea of, you know, famous film sets and tourist dollars kind of falling into that area, if this could help maybe using the arts and entertainment to enrich or almost like bring back to life areas that are maybe suffering from poverty or a low income pool, see if that could help better some communities out there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. In the past few years, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and in the past few years, several big blockbuster movies have been Cleveland, especially some of the Marvel movies. We had Spider-Man, and then we just had Captain America 2, and we had part of the Avengers, and I almost got a job working on the Captain America 2 movie that was being shot down by the water. But when the area down by the water in Cleveland it's where the steel mills used to be, and it's often an area that's kind of left to the wayside, and bringing these big motion pictures in there, it really encourages jobs and growth in the community, and they put out an ad in the paper. It was like, we need production assistants, we need these jobs and stuff, and so it's really encouraging to see so much of the community get involved.
Next up we have, how do I stop saying
So this one was a lot about how to like do big presentations for what I would think is like a little bit of a larger audience than what we might do in class, but it definitely had some good tips on like how to like talk in class and keep your class focused, which I think would be hard because we have classes now where we have to do a lot of presentations and you could see the class like falling asleep and not wanting to pay attention. So it has some like really interesting things to like keep people on track and like have lots of pictures on the screen instead of a lot of typing because like no one wants to sit and read that. They'd rather like look at the pictures and the imagery and like hear what you have to say about things.
Yeah, and I feel like a good example of a class like that is our Foundations 2 class. A big part about that class is presenting to your peers, and I definitely had presentations that were very dull and that I really, frankly, didn't want to sit through. But I also had presentations where I was awake and alert for good reasons and for bad reasons. Sometimes it's very awkward that the presenter is very loud and opinionated, but even if they're being, you know, kind of unsavory, like at least their presentation style is good. Like I'd rather listen to someone that I hate than someone who's very boring.
Absolutely. Like, one of my biggest pet peeves on watching a live presentation is listening to somebody say over and over again, or somebody who's just reading off their PowerPoint. Because I think it dramatically reduces how interesting your presentation is, and it puts you to sleep. And it's funny because I took a basic level acting class in like high school, and my theater teacher, he used to always get on us about like, don't say like, get better public speaking skills. But whenever he got up and spoke to the class, he always said repeatedly. So it was almost like he was a hypocrite and he could take his own advice. See, there you go, right there.
One of my biggest pet peeves when I'm listening to presentations is if I could have gotten a transcript of your presentation and gotten just as much out of it, that doesn't really do it for me. Like, if you're going to be presenting this in front of me, I want you to be adding something to it, not just giving. If I could have just read your slides and gotten the same amount out of it, or read the script, then I don't see the purpose of the presentation.
Yeah.
So I really want to be gaining something with you up there speaking.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think a lot of people would probably disagree with me on this, but I think a unscripted presentation is better than one that's scripted and well rehearsed, because if you rehearse it and script it, you kind of end up feeling, or you kind of give off this feeling that like you're just delivering lines to people, and like Trent said, you could just give them a script of what you said, they get the same information. Versus if like your heart and soul is really in the presentation, then you're gonna give off a lot more valuable information.
Yeah, that's true, but at the same time, if you're going off of things that you didn't really look into enough or have a lot of like background information on, you're just kind of doing it off the top of your head, you're probably more likely to start going, trying to think of what to say next.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whereas
I
if
think
you
that
come up
happens
with
to me.
something beforehand to at least have guidelines to follow, it'll make
Yeah,
it
I
easier
think
for you to-
Guidelines are definitely important.
I definitely like to make outlines for my presentation.
Yes.
I think outlines, but not the scripts, are good. Like even when I interviewed here, I had like for each of my portfolio pieces, I didn't have a script because I didn't want to sound rehearsed, but I knew some basic points I wanted to hit on for each piece that I want the people in the room to know.
Yeah, like highlighting the most important facts and like keeping
Yeah.
it going so you're not like lagging on one thing for too long either.
And there are things that like if you remember them, you can throw them in as like extra fun facts or something. But and then there are also the pieces that, if nothing else, we want to make sure that the audience remembers these pieces. I also think, along with that, there's certain presentations where that get too bogged down in everything else, and so you lose the main point.
Yeah.
And so,
Cool. Okay, so moving on. The next article that we had to do for this assignment was the House of Cards crew. They could have all their equipment seized from Maryland if they stopped filming
well,
in
Mr.
Maryland.
Maryland.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to take the lead on this one since I'm from Maryland. You know, I have to say, I was a little bit disgusted when I was reading this article and a little bit ashamed of my home state for doing this, but I mean, I suppose I can understand why, because they're trying to keep, you know, big name shows or movies in their state and, you know, get some, almost like I was talking about earlier with the community outreach and getting, you know, some popularity. I think they're taking that a little bit too far with this. I think it's a little bit ridiculous. If, you know, a show needs to move out of your state, they need to move out of your state. And they need to be able to take their equipment with them. I mean, that's taking it too far to try and step in.
It's almost like they're being petty. Like, you know what? We don't want you to leave, so we're gonna take your car. Like,
Yeah,
Well-
it does seem kind of childish.
I also think, along with what Sam was saying about, like, they want them to be in the state. Like, if I was Maryland and I wanted someone to come shoot movies in my state, I wouldn't, like, if a film crew came in, I wouldn't, like, take away their equipment. Like, what precedent does it set for, like, the other film crews?
Yeah,
It's
nobody
like,
else is going to want to come to
Let's shoot in Maryland. No, we better not shoot in Maryland. They might take away our equipment.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why would anyone? Why is it appealing to anyone? I think it's like one of those things. It's like in customer service, like it's more important to like let this customer have like what they want, and so that you build a good relationship with them, so they keep coming back, than to like just get what you want right now and then completely destroy that customer's view of the store.
Yeah.
if I was Maryland in this situation and House of Cards was being like, oh, you know, like we need to move, I would lower the taxes for them. I think that I would like give them some incentive to stay because
Yeah.
this is not just like any old show. This is House of Cards. This is a show that's up and coming and very, very popular right now, and it's going to go on to have multiple seasons after this one. So I would want to keep this show in business, and by letting them stay here.
Yeah, and I don't want to do anything to like keep it where I am, and then like you know promote where you are, and go back to the tourism thing. People could want to go there and be like, "This is where House of Cards is filmed."
Yeah.
It could do a lot for them.
Yeah, everyone I meet that watches, they're like, you have to watch House of Cards. And I'm like, okay. So I don't know. If I was Maryland, I would just be like, we're keeping House of Cards instead of like kicking them out. Stop.
I think they just went about it in a poor way. It was a poor choice
Yeah.
on that person.
Yeah.
All right. So next article is about a Portland area repertory theater that presented all of Shakespeare's work in 2 years. And the interesting about this article is that it's not just his plays. They did all 37 of his plays, but they also performed his sonnets and his poems and like anything
A lot
that
of
he had,
Shakespeare.
like
That's a lot.
all of Shakespeare, not just like Romeo and Juliet and Julius Caesar, like all of it. Wow.
They had all the French, Romans, and countrymen.
Yeah.
That's one of the Olympics by Shakespeare. Yeah.
A lot of what the article says is that Portland is probably one of the best places to do this because of the spirit that it has and like the way that artists work there with collaboration. That it was like easy for them to make this a thing that happened.
Yeah.
What really like stuck out to me was the producing artistic director had mentioned a line about how he thought that Shakespeare was interesting, and he really wants us to appeal to young people, and he feels that schools K through 12 have kind of ruined Shakespeare a little bit and really made it boring and a drag, and he's absolutely right. Coming from somebody who's gone through multiple years of English class and had Shakespeare forcibly thrown at him, I would say they ruined it for me. And as a theater artist, that's not good, because I'll probably be doing a lot of Shakespeare at some point in my career, I imagine. And I know that it can be much more interesting than they make it out to be in a high school English class.
Yeah, when I was in high school, actually, I had a teacher that hated Shakespeare but taught it anyway. And
That's always a good combination.
And so we read King Lear, but we never finished it. And I was like, how can we not finish this? Like, this is great. This is I was having so much fun reading Shakespeare, and he glossed over it, and I'm like, this is so interesting. But a lot of members of my class, even senior year of high school, were struggling with the language. And I feel like that's a flaw of our educational system, because there's so much in Shakespeare's text that we skip over. And if we really sat down and analyzed it, and maybe if we even read more of it and got more acquainted with the language, maybe not Shakespeare, but somebody else of its time, get a more broader range of literature from the period, I think that we would really come to appreciate Shakespeare more.
Absolutely. I think a big struggle for a lot of young people is the language in Shakespeare is just, it is English, but it might as well be a foreign language.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the, for myself personally, I've always struggled with the Shakespearean language, and I've never really been able to appreciate his works because of it. And the only times I've actually really enjoyed Shakespeare is when I've actually seen it performed, which is why I kind of like what this theater is doing, giving it an opportunity to be performed, because as mostly a visual artist, I can understand what's happening on stage.
Yeah, when the design comes together.
When I see it. If I'm just, because then if I don't understand the language, it might as well be like a silent movie. I can still follow what's going on. I can still understand, and then I can put the pieces together and then see what the language was saying, because I already know what the story is. But I also think for that you need. I've seen some really terrible productions of Shakespeare. Also, you need a really powerful, well-designed production. I think that's where the creative team comes together. Spoiler alert: they die at the end.
I think that what's important when you're doing Shakespeare is to have a really good production team. We had a rule in our high school of no Shakespeare. We're never doing Shakespeare. We will never do Shakespeare. We've never done Shakespeare. Because it's very hard to do good productions of Shakespeare, because it can easily just go down the toilet. And I've seen some very terrible productions, but I've also seen one amazing production of Midsummer's Night's Dream from a local high school. And when it's right, it's so right. But you just need to find it. And I think Portland found it.
Yeah, I completely forgot. My freshman year of high school, the first time I ever worked in the theater as a whiteboard operator, we did the complete works of Shakespeare abridged.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, that was a blast. We had so much fun doing it, and I think I'll never forget that production, mainly because it was the first show I ever worked on. But it was fun. It was lighthearted. It was the design of it was really cool. We had some really flashy lighting. We had some wacky costumes. The set was really interesting. It was just a really cool show to work on, and I think if you really do the Shakespeare live, instead of just forcing students to read it out of a book and then answer questions about it, it just loses all of its appeal right there.
Yeah, though the text is very important to what Shakespeare is. It is a play, and plays are meant to be performed, and I feel like whenever we did read Shakespeare in school, we tried to see a production of it as well. We're recording a podcast.
Anyway.
We always would try and go see a production of whatever play that we were reading. They even changed the curriculum based on what was in the area, so we could go see it. King Lear, we stopped reading King Lear because we went to see a production of King Lear. And I could have read King Lear, and I did, but seeing the production really was a lot better than reading the book.
Yeah, and if you people of the internet have not seen pictures of CMU's production of Midsummer Night's Dream, you should definitely look it up, because that is a very, very cool production of a Shakespeare show.
Absolutely. I always love appreciating that picture when I'm in the
That's
cluster.
an awesome picture.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so our next article is why are native roles going to white actors? This seems to be a common article that keeps coming up on the green page.
Yeah, it's kind of like 4 or 5 times now.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with the new titling in the pan thing too.
Yeah, well, the thing my personal view on it is if I'm the director and someone is like not necessarily the same ethnic descent as like the character or someone, but they look like they could be or they could play the part and they're a better actor, I'm gonna go with the better actor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I understand that it's unfortunate for the Native American actors, but I would much rather have the better actor than the person that's right with.
For me, like even as like an audience member though, like I think I wouldn't pay attention to the fact if it's not the right ethnicity, if they're doing a good enough job portraying the role and like getting across the like point of the story.
Yeah. There was that movie Prince of Persia where they cast Jake Gyllenhaal, which I thought was honestly really weird because I feel like you can find actors. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of actors. You just need to find good ones. But picking a star just for his name instead of his talent, because like he was horrible in the movie. I feel like that really backfired on that movie.
Yeah. I mean, they have to be able to portray the character well in order for it to be justifiable.
Moving on, the next one we have is important lessons in woodworking. I felt like this article wasn't really about woodworking in general. Like I didn't learn anything about wood.
It's really more, like
It wasn't
shop
even
work. And
shop culture. I feel like this is stuff you can use every day, just every process you do. Like making it the most efficient way for you to do it, regardless of being in a shop or writing a paper or doing anything.
For when I read the article, I thought it was I got more about like how the shop treated him than what he actually what they were actually telling him to do. The fact that they were yelling at him and screaming at him, they had to do things this way, and they were very harsh when he did things the wrong way. And I understand what he was saying about the fact that like it made him like a better carpenter or something, but I've always been of the mindset that if you scream and yell at someone like that, although you might get results, I always think it's better when you find a better way to tell them in a more nurturing environment, even if you are in a shop. Like I've spent a lot of my life in shops, and I don't like being in the shop if it's a hostile environment. Like as much as I might need the job, I will leave because I don't want to work in that environment. I would like to learn, but if they're just screaming at me all the time, it's not. I kind of put up a field when people just scream at me all day.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I'm sorry. Go ahead. If you wanna.
No, I was just gonna say that like I think that's like really like reasonable to not want to do that, but I don't think that was the point he was trying to get across in the article. I think the point was that like regardless of the fact they're mean and yelling at him, he like got something valuable out of it to make his life easier and do things more efficiently and become a better worker because of it.
Yeah. He says work smarter, not harder. I feel like that's the thing that we really stress here at school. Whether it actually is achieved or not is a different story, but it's definitely something that I'm thinking about. Like, okay, like how could I make this easier? How could I paint these flats in a quicker amount of time? Like, is there a tool I can use? I think that since coming in here,
Zip kicker.
no, not zip kicker. Is there a way that I can do things better? I feel like I picked that up since coming here. Like I went home and like did everything faster, and I was like, whoa. So applies to my life, you know. Yeah.
I think you can take a lot of the skills that you learn everywhere, and that's part of becoming a more experienced, well-rounded person. Is you just take everything you learn, whether it be a shop or in the theater or I don't know, on
English class.
Yeah, in your English class. I mean, it could even be, on a vacation to England or something. I think life is about taking all the experiences and putting them all together and figuring out what that means to you and going from there.
And our final article is called How the Jim Henson Company is Turbocharging Puppets. with
So-
technology.
Backgrounds, Jim Henson, like doing really cool things with puppetry, I guess.
This one talks, I think, a little bit more about the sci-fi show that he has now. It's compared to Face Off, I guess.
Yeah, they've done a lot of shows recently on the Siffy channel about like the behind the scenes type stuff. Like they have Face Off, and I don't know if Hot Set's still running, but I know they had a good season of that.
They had an interior design one. I
Yeah,
don't know if that was on.
they have the puppet one now, and I just the one the article's about. I think it's cool how this channel is like kind of letting people see into our world of how what we do happens and how much work goes into it, because I think there are a lot of people out there who either are like, whoa, how'd they do that? That's cool, and like going backstage and seeing how stuff works backstage, and then there are also people who just like see the show and ignore everything else and ignore all the work that went into it, and don't really appreciate how much everyone behind the scenes is doing. And so I think these shows, the puppet one included, do a good job showing people into that world.
Because a lot of times you can look at puppets and be like, oh, like that's easy, you just like attach wires and it moves. But when you get a closer look at the puppets, I feel like you appreciate them even more because you realize all the subtle complexities that go into them.
Or if you had to try and build a puppet and didn't know what you were doing, you would very quickly learn how hard it really is.
Yeah, anyone who's done Avenue Q can tell you about that. So.
Or Little Shop of Horrors,
Little
with a
Shop.
big giant plant
Yeah,
that
Little
eats
Shop.
people.
I've worked on a Photoshop plan before, that was rough. Okay, so that's everything.
So thank you for watching our podcast. And
Thank you, Internet.
maybe we'll see you again sometime.
Yeah.
Next time.
That was so rude.
It's a story.